Our chair now recognizes Mr. Grothman from Wisconsin for five.
Yeah, thank you. GSA's Office of Evaluation Scientists is expending taxpayer money conducting a study at OPM's request to determine the effectiveness of DEI training on federal workforces. First of all, you know about how much that's going to cost?
I do not.
Okay. Could you comment on what you're trying to determine there, what your metrics are, what the goal of this stuff is?
So I'm not familiar with the study that you're referring to, but happy to learn more and circle back with you. I assume it's about just generally DEIA, but I don't know specifically.
Okay. I'll try again. Maybe you can answer this one. Academic research has found DEIA and anti-bias trainings to be expensive with no gain. Why is the federal government spending taxpayer dollars on a new evaluation to prove that its DEIA trainings are any different instead of relying on already available research?
So again, Congressman, I apologize that I'm not familiar with the study, but I'm happy to circle back with you and your team about it.
Can you comment? I'll give you one final question, then we'll go on to something else. What's the purpose of rigorous DEI training in the federal workforce? What is the purpose of it?
Well, I can speak for myself. The American taxpayers and all of Americans deserve a government that represents them. And government is better when it represents all the people. And so understanding that and making sure that we are reflective of that in our values as agencies, I think is important. As to the study that you're talking about, I will tell you I'm not sure what the scope of it is, but I will definitely look into it.
Well, I'll switch to telework here. Occupancy rates of the federal office buildings are very low, with GAO noting that 17 of 24 major agencies are less than 25% occupied, which is kind of amazing. Why are taxpayers footing the bill to maintain millions of square feet of office space when less than a quarter of it is being used in many cases?
Yeah, Congressman, I agree with you. We need to figure out how to optimize and shrink the federal real estate footprint. That GAO report also said the biggest obstacle to GSA being able to do that is access to the Federal Buildings Fund. That's the fund that all of the rent payments that agencies pay to the government goes into, but it has been diverted off in the last 12 years, $1 billion a year, to spend on other things. So what we're asking for from this committee and from the Congress is to fix that and make sure that the funds that are paid for rent are used on public buildings, not for other things.
What else are they using it for?
That's a question for the FSGG committee, but they allocate it otherwise within that appropriation subcommittee.
I'll ask you to expand a little on that, because when you say some of the major agency headquarter buildings, only 25% is used. Do you have any idea how long this has been going on?
So I don't have occupancy rate numbers, historic occupancy rate numbers, but what I can say is all agencies right now are thinking through how much space they need and thinking about how we could potentially consolidate. GSA has a history of doing that ourselves. Over the last 10 years, we've moved out of 2 different spaces in the Washington area. One, an expensive lease in Arlington, and another, a federally owned building in the district, and consolidated everyone into our headquarters building. That saved $300 million for taxpayers straight up and shrunk our footprint by 43%. So we know how to do this. What we need is the flexibility and the certainty about funding to be able to get it done.
I guess that most federal workers on the general schedule get an addition 33% pay bump for having to work here in town, which just has to be incredibly expensive. Because of that, have you ever considered moving some of these agencies to a place where they wouldn't get this bump?
Well, again, I don't decide what agency missions are to decide where they need people. I can speak about GSA. 75% of our workforce is outside of Washington, and 75% of our assets are outside of Washington. So that's what we deal with every day. And so our teams are scattered around the country. And frankly, I think that is good for the American people and good for delivering the kind of service folks expect.
Okay, so you would encourage other agencies to maybe take advantage of this, particularly as we're shuffling around where we put employees with all this empty space? Would it, you feel, be better if I'm not sure how far away from Washington D.C. you have to be not to get the additional bump, but would it be better to be 40 or 50 miles into Maryland or into Virginia?
Yeah, I'll have to check on that. Again, we're not the ones who set those rates, and I don't know what those schedules look like. But the notion that folks need to go where their missions are, right? That's what we have done at GSA, and I assume that's what other agencies are focused on at this moment as well.
Right. My good friend Congressman Zinke was doing that at Interior before he had to leave. Okay, thanks.